Bottom line is we've really been focused necessarily on counterinsurgency for over 20 years, and organizing and training for that kind of adversary. Our pacing adversaries now, the folks that we have to worry about, are really thinking about what we call the high-end fight, large-scale combat operations, and we have to think about all the domains of warfare. We have to not only think about land, sea, and air, we have to think about cyberspace. We have to think about space itself, because our adversaries are very sophisticated there, and those will be very decisive domains of warfare going into the future.
How do Blackhawks fit in with that?
They'll still be very important. You know, those things that we had to think about before don't go away. So the ability to generate land power, the ability for our attack aircraft to attack deep, our ability to transport troops around the battlefield, those things still exist. We just have to synchronize and coordinate those with all the other aspects of power and what we call joint warfare. Nobody will survive on the modern battlefield alone. We have to develop the ability for every shooter on the ground to be able to communicate with every other shooter, for every sensor, for that person who may see a target or a threat to be able to talk to every shooter. So for an infantry soldier to be able to talk to an F-35 pilot directly would be the ultimate goal for us, so that we could be more agile and more adaptive and be more decisive in the future conflict.
Hey, what are we flying in today? Can you describe it? What's the feeling going to be like? And how do you all use these tools, the helicopters, in this modern era?
What you're going to fly on today is a UH-60 Mike model Black Hawk. It's one of the most state-of-the-art Black Hawks. We picked up these aircraft directly from the factory, which is pretty incredible for the National Guard. There was a day when we got cascaded the old Army equipment. Our modern National Guard picks up state-of-the-art equipment, and these aircraft that you're going to experience today are just that. And they're designed essentially for transporting infantry troops, but they're so much more adaptable than that. We can put long-range tanks on them and fly deep missions. Inserting special operations forces. We can conduct paradrop operations for special operations and Ranger forces. In Iraq and Afghanistan, they were used very often to transport people through high threat areas to avoid IEDs and some of the other concerns that we had on the roadways. So they saved a lot of lives over the last 20 years, just keeping people, VIPs, our troops airborne and away from the threats. So they're incredibly adaptable and can be used for a lot of different things.
How old is it?
These aircraft, I can't tell you. I think we picked them up about 10, 12 years ago. The crews can tell you more about that, but it hasn't been very long. They're pretty new aircraft, and in the scheme of how life cycles of airframes.
Christine, did you?
Yeah, so you mentioned 40 years ago when you joined the Guard that you said it was a dark day whenever the Guard had to deploy. Now you guys deploy every single day. When did that transition happen, and why did it happen? What are the benefits, etc.?
Well, early on, the Guard was what we called a strategic reserve, which meant that we and our national leaders thought of it as just that. It just provided that strategic depth. So if there was a second or third wave of warfare, then maybe we would get around to deploying the Guard. But what has changed is that in order for our departments of defense, our Department of Air Force, Department of the Army to modernize, to maintain their global obligations around the world, what we call our gift map requirements, they have to rely on the National Guard. The demands, the national security demands for the services are so high that they have to integrate the National Guard into those deployment cycles just in order to meet the demands. So a National Guard brigade may conduct a deployment rotation, and an active duty brigade may conduct the rotation the next time. So we create that space for the active component to be able to meet its obligations, as well as creating space for them to modernize. As I said, we have to modernize to meet future threats. So if you're going to modernize an active duty formation, you have to pull that formation offline, field new equipment, train on the new equipment, new systems, new command and control systems, and that creates a requirement for someone to fill that. And the National Guard helps fill those requirements.
One more. You said we're the 5th largest Army National Guard and the 2nd largest Air National Guard. What do you attribute that to, and how do you keep the numbers up? I thought it was interesting, the 2nd largest, I mean, bigger than Texas, California, that's huge.
Yes, we are the 5th largest Army National Guard, 2nd largest Air National Guard in the country, and that's for a couple reasons. First of all, Ohioans have a high propensity to serve. We're a large state with with a large propensity to serve. Well, right now recruiting is a little bit tough, but generally we still out-recruit most of the National Guard states in the nation. Secondly, we're geographically located within much of the population, so it makes sense to put some of those homeland response capabilities here in Ohio. And we leverage that very well. And thirdly, I will tell you that, and this has nothing to do with just me, but we've had senior leaders who've developed a culture of excellence here in the Ohio National Guard for quite a while. So senior leaders in the National Guard Bureau, senior leaders in the Army and the Air Force know that if they station new units in Ohio, we'll not only have the ability to train it and recruit to it, but that we'll maintain the highest levels of excellence, and we'll stretch the resources given to us by our federal partners as far as we can possibly stretch them. And that's built a lot of trust for not only from the people of Ohio, but for the decision makers inside the Department of Defense.
Spencer?
Thank you. You talked in the briefing about the Cyber Reserve and the Naval Militia in terms of their regular roles. Could you also talk about the Ohio Military Reserve and how you might work with U.S. Civil Air Patrol on disaster response?
Yeah, those are all organizations, the Ohio Cyber Reserve, the Ohio Military Reserve, the Naval Militia, even the Civil Air Patrol. These are volunteer organizations that significantly stretch our capabilities without us expending a lot of resources. These are great Ohioans who volunteer to participate in these organizations, and they only get paid if we call them for a response. But the Civil Air Patrol significantly stretches our legs when it comes to the ability to do search and rescue. Our Ohio Cyber Reserve brings in incredible, not just increasing our capacity and ability to do more, but our capabilities. Some of those specialties that those cyber professionals bring to us are pretty unique and very helpful in a response. The Naval Militia, of course, gives us capability up on Lake Erie that we wouldn't have otherwise. So these are organizations, again, great Americans who are altruistic. They're serving for all the right reasons, and again, they don't even get paid unless we mobilize and utilize them. And we've been utilizing them more because we've recognized what a treasure those organizations are for us.
It was about a year ago, I guess, when you announced the 179th was going to switch from the one to the other. Is that in process right now? Are you doing both now there, or what's happening up there right now, almost a year into that?
It is very much in process. In fact, that organization had 3 what they call Finney flights, which are the final flights. They had one 3-ship formation. As part of a ceremony when we're actually turning in those birds, they had another, which was the last training flight. And then their last Finney flight was actually flying that last bird out of Mansfield and taking it to its next duty assignment. So that transition is going very, very rapidly. We're waiting for one thing, which is the final environmental assessment. It's just a bureaucratic step that we have to wait for before we can officially turn on the cybersecurity wing. But yes, that transition is going hot and heavy. The most important thing for us right now is recruiting the people who not only want the training, that rigorous training to become cybersecurity professionals, but who can meet the scores and all the other requirements to do that.
When were those last Finney flights?
I think, I couldn't tell you the exact
Oh, that's
dates,
fine.
but the last one was just about a week ago.
Oh, okay. And you said you're going to be transitioning people if they want to go from mechanics to cyber technicians if they want to.
Yeah, that's correct. If a person says, I want to remain an aircrew member, then we will find them a position as an aircrew member in one of our other wings. To include here, by the way, we have a number of the pilots and aircrew members who are transferring here to become tanker pilots and tanker crew members, or we'll send them to Toledo so they can work on F-16s. But if they want to transition, and many of them have demonstrated it and expressed that they want to cybersecurity professionals, which is honestly the future. I mean, it's going to be so critical to our national security in the future. A number of those folks have expressed a desire to transition to cybersecurity. So we're working hard to acquire the right school seats within the Air Force and the funding to get them to school and all the other things going to require to get that unit stood up.
Sir, what is the benefit of today's media flight for the National Guard?
For me, I get to see my friends. No, the greatest benefit, frankly, and most important to me is that our members and our friends in the media who understand us, they know what's happening currently. They help tell that story, and that we're transparent. It's important for us as I believe a government entity, and especially a Department of Defense entity, to be transparent with the people of our nation, to understand what our challenges are, to understand who we are. Quite frankly, not just to recruit and join our ranks, but I believe we owe it to the people of America to know what's happening inside their armed forces.